Welcome back to another episode on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today we got some news. Jamal Adams traded from the New York Jets to the Seattle Seahawks. This is a bombshell of a trade. I mean, it's something we all been talking about for the summer and something we were expected to happen, but it's still just really big news. I mean, but we all saw it. We all saw how it was unfolding. So, at the end of the day, you look at it, and I know a lot of people are tempted to say this trade shows what the Jets felt about Jamal Adams, but I think the whole situation is more indicative of what they felt about Jamal Adams. And I'll kind of explain that. So I think there's two parts to it, or there are two parts to it, and I don't remember the exact timeline, but basically what you had was Jamal Adams, who was a top 10 draft pick, played extremely well and turned out to be what most people expected him to be. And there were still questions about the commitment to Jamal Adams, so much so that there were trade rumors. And Jamal, as natural as anybody else, wanted to know what was the truth. And it seems that there was not a lot of upfront truth. Now, all the trade rumors were reported, so we don't know, they're alleged, but obviously Jamal felt strongly enough that somebody had some truth out there, and maybe he's got a connection, who knows, but maybe either way, he was told, look, we're not trying to trade you, we want to make you a Jet for life, and then he felt strongly enough that that wasn't true. And so at that point, you burn one type of bridge. And a player like Jamal Adams is like, well, I would say a lot of players, but especially Jamal Adams. He's like, okay, you don't respect me on that level to be up front. And I think some of us get it because you don't know what's going to happen and you don't want to make false promises and whatnot. But still, you don't respect me on that point. Okay, well, you're going to respect me on the business point. I want a new contract then. I've been playing great. Give me a new contract, blah, blah, blah. Because NFL players want that guaranteed money. It's different with the NFL. Like, he might love the city. A lot of them say they do. We don't know if that's true. But what they do want is that long-term security. And so they know it's more likely to happen within house than somewhere else because they know what they're dealing with. But either way, it's like, okay, well, let me get that nice contract with that good guaranteed money, because the 10-year contract don't matter if none of it's guaranteed. They could cut you at any time. That security comes with that fat check, those guarantees where the team is more likely to keep you. And so that's what he wanted. And that's natural. Me, I still say I get it. 2 years left on his contract as a business move? No. But the other part of that is, like, some people say, well, they don't want to handicap themselves. Well, the thing is, the Jets, we know, aren't handicapping the cap space because they don't have a lot of talent. They're not paying a lot of people. And so that was my one thing. I was like, just pay them. But anyway, 2 years left. I get it. Okay. No, we're not going to do that contract. So now Jamal's set. He's upset, excuse me. And again, I think it's funny how much we see this in history and we have to keep learning it. But respect goes a long way. Yes, we need the money and we need all this, but respect goes a long way. And so had they dealt with it better in the beginning, maybe been more transparent and honest with him, maybe he would have been more lax on the contract. But since they wasn't, he was bullish on the contract. And then they said, no, we're not doing that. And so then we got a point where they were upset. So Jamal requested a trade, obviously. And so at that point, it was just kind of at a standstill. It was like, we don't really know. But Jamal fanned the Flames, excuse me. He fanned the Flames hard. I don't know if y'all saw the article or the interview. He did an interview on radio, but there was some articles that kind of recapped it. He was doing an interview on some place in New York, and he lit the Jets GM and Adam Gase head coach up. Like, and this is what you do. It's I love it. Let me just say this. I love it. Well, let me say what he said, but I love this. So some of the things he said, he said that he basically said he doesn't trust Adam Gase as a leader. He said he doesn't think he's the one that helped them reach the promised land. He said that Adam doesn't address the team. He always has another coach address the team. Even at halftime, he'll talk with the coaches and then have a coach talk to the team. And so he said he didn't like that. And then Jamal Adams said that what they said in some meeting at some point was that they had to, or they were waiting to see Jamal prove that he was fully all in with the Jets. And so, not sure what that meant, but apparently he said it as if they said that to him, where they said they want to monitor him to feel like he's all in with the Jets, which is just crazy. And Jamal said himself, he was like, the type of player he is, he goes 100%, whether it's, they're up, whether they're down, close game, blowout, first quarter, fourth quarter, doesn't matter. He's going to go hard. That's the way he plays, and he's going to give it all out on the field. And that's the player we knew coming out of college. And so it was just like, bro, how could you say that to Jamal Adams? And I'm taking his word because he didn't say, I heard this or that. He said, this is what they said to him. And so part of me is like, what, like you hear these stories and it's like, bro, who talks to these top tier, elite players like this? You hear some crazy stories, even with Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins and all that. But people don't realize, like, everybody in football has ego. Like, sometimes we talk about the D-backs or the receivers. Some people talk about football players in general. But, bro, it's the sport in general. Most coaches have played the game. Most coaches. A good amount of the front office people have played the game. And if not, you're around the game. And the game has an ego to it. As a coach, it's true. Like, especially when you're a coach of the players. Because, like, it's the same power trip everybody has when we're talking about cops or any position of authority. When you're the coach, especially like a head coach or a coordinator, and you're like, oh, I got Tyreek Hill, or I got Pat Mahomes, or Alvin Kamara, or Jamal Adams, Saquon, whoever. It's like, I got these premium stud players, but I get to control what they do. I control how they work out. I control how they practice. I control what plays they run. I control if I set them up in the right situation. And there's an ego to it with coaches. And so that's every coach, position coaching up. Because position coach, I control the drills. I could kill you today if I want to, as far as like making you tired. And so there's the ego. And so people got to realize, I'm not shocked in that way where, especially people with the money, like we're just talking about the coaches with the physical part. People with the money are probably like, bro, if we not here, you don't get paid. We're more important. And so you'd be shocked how they talk to some of these people. So they told Jamal Adams, we want to see if you all in with the Jets. Now, as I said, people in football, or players in football, it's different because you gotta get that long-term security. And so maybe you aren't all in on the city or the team or whatever, but that's how you portray it because you're like, well, I gotta get that long-term money. But either way, I don't really care. Like, if you OBJ and you hate Cleveland, it's boring, and you said you hate Cleveland, but you go on the field and you tear it up, like, and you say, I want a contract, I'm going to give you the contract. Because at the end of the day, there's somebody that absolutely is a diehard New York fan and can't play safety like Jamal Adams. So to say we're going to wait to see if you all in, bro, sacrificing his body on the field is all you need to know. So that's extremely disrespectful. I agree with Jamal Adams there. But yeah, so he ripped the GM. He ripped Adam Gase. Like, and that's the thing. People think it's all like you see on TV or in a video game. Every team is extremely different. And I mean, I don't know, unless you worked in different departments at the same company or something like that, you might not understand it, where you can really see every little detail. So the small details really matter. So the detail, like, people like, oh, the coach goes to the halftime and riles up the troops. That's not always true. Not everybody does it like that. So there's a lot of things that are different. He calls out some personal details of what Gase does and all that. And so at the end of the day, what I would say is that they had no choice but to trade Jamal Adams. You had no choice. You cannot, and that's the one thing. It's a fine line. It's a rare fine line because you rarely see this, but it's a fine line between talent and your toxicness, because you could be a locker room wrecker, but if you're like really great on the field, most people, even the players, are going to allow it. And so it's a fine line with that, but I will say this, like, you cannot keep a player that does that because you've undermined the head coach publicly. And it's already tough if you do it in front of the team, but you did it publicly. Like, articles written, NFLnetwork.com, on the radio, whatever. You did it publicly and talked about personal details. I don't respect this man. He's not the one to do it. And this ain't the NBA. This ain't the NBA where you could belittle a coach, treat a coach like crap, fire a coach, and get the same product. That's not what's going to happen. And there is no player besides the quarterback that has that type of command on the team. So if you got a player that is outwardly disrespecting your coach, who also has been kind of the GM, but you got to let him go. You can't. That's a locker room cancer. And people don't get that. Everybody thinks like every player locks in and does their job on Sunday. That's not how it goes. Some people do. A lot of people are like, they waver with their emotions and they waver what's going on. So if you had half the locker room talking crap about the coach, feeling like the coach is inadequate, feeling like he don't know what he's doing, that's going to show up on the field. And so you can't have that. And then he didn't go after the owner, but he went after the GM, and that's the same thing. Like, you can't have people undermining authority like that. And it's not to say you got to shut up and play football. It's not like that, but you can't do it publicly. Like, you cannot. It's all about the perception. And so, like I said, if you went to Gase and said in the one-on-one, hey, I don't think you're a great leader. I don't like when you do this. I don't think you can hack it. It might hurt his feelings, but he should be able to say, okay, I know how to treat Jamal now, and I know how to work with him going forward. But if you do it in front of the whole team, that's a different story. And when you do it in front of the world, that's a whole different story. But I love it because this is the power that the players have to flex. Like I said, it's different in the NBA, where just your status as a player is enough for you to flex power. LeBron gets to do what he wants. You don't get that in the NFL. Not even Pat Mahomes would be able to get that. Like, if he'd be like, hey, I want Andy Reid out of here, it would be a fight. It wouldn't be that simple. And so the players, though, they have to leverage their ability in the media. And then and their other way, they really need to leverage their power as a collective, but they don't do that well. So you got to leverage the power you have. Like, back then, some random quote in the middle of a paper that comes out 2 weeks later, like, it might, ruffle some feathers. But some people, in Chicago ain't going to read about what Jamal Adams said in New York. But nowadays, you could go straight to Twitter. You could go straight to the people. You go straight to a radio. And it doesn't even matter. It could be a small thing in an article in New York. People are going to write an article online, or they're going to make a video or a podcast about it, and we're going to hear about it everywhere. So you got that power and you got to use it. And I say it's rare because usually the type of player that would do this, or like, because you can't just go, oh, I hate this place, I'm going to blow it up and they're going to trade me, because you got a bad reputation and all that stuff. We know about T.O., we know about Ocho Cinco, we know about players like that. But that's not to say that you still shouldn't be able to use that leverage when you need to. And this is a rare case where you have a outstanding A-plus player off the field. You got an A-plus player on the field. Great track record. And so he had to do what he had to do, because guarantee without him lighting up Gase and everything, they wouldn't have traded him. Like if he was just going to sit idly by, because he said, I'm going to training camp. I'm going for my teammates. I'm going for the fans. And so he said, I'm not holding out. That's not the type of player I am. So if he just sat on his hands and did that, they would have rolled it out. They would have been like, let's get as much out of him as we can. Let's get, 6 games worth out of him and then try to trade him before the deadline, or let's get a year or a year and a half out of him and then trade him. Like they would have did that. But since he made that situation untenable and uncomfortable, they were forced to trade him. And I applaud it in this situation, him using his power to get what he wants. And so lastly, him going to Seattle. Seattle is very thirsty for defensive backs, even though I think, Shaq Griffin is really, is it Shaquille? Is he the corner? I think he's really good. He hasn't crossed that barrier to shut down, but he's really good. But outside of that, they really lost a lot. And people, I keep trying to tell, they struck gold. Like Earl Thomas was a good prospect that kind of tumbled in the first round a little bit. And then Cam Chancellor, late round pick, Richard Sherman, late round pick. Browner for when he was there, late round pick. They hit that, and then people, think they Belichick or something. It's like, oh, we're just going to keep doing that. And it's like, no. So a lot of the stuff they done in the secondary has not hit. And so they've been kind of, really swimming, especially lately this offseason. They got Quandre Diggs, who is a nice roamer. And now you got Jamal Adams. So I think any team, you bring a leadership attitude with Jamal Adams. But now you get a really needed spot. But I just love it because it's a place where the coach wants to compete. The team wants to compete. The city is used to high-level football. Russ Wilson wants to compete. I forgot about the offensive side. Russ Wilson and Jamal Adams, those are two of my favorite players. And so Jamal said, I'm used to winning. All this losing stuff is weird for me. And it's funny, I just heard OBJ talking about that. They both came from LSU, and so Jamal's like, I want to go to a team that wants to win and wants to do things the right way. And like I said, the trade was because Jamal set the flame. He did that. But I think the way they handled the situation was more indicative of how they are as an organization, where Jamal's right. They probably don't handle things the right way to win. And we know Gase, like giving him a job after what he did and then letting him make these GM moves, like, bro, that's not the winning way. And so I have to say, I'm excited. I'm excited for this if we have a season. But I love that Jamal used his power. I love where he ended up. And the compensation, I gotta think about it more, but that's nice. I mean, I wonder for my Bears fans, and I'm gonna ask them, like, would we have gave it up? Because we figured that's what it might be. Now, Seattle tends to be a playoff team, so it's not high first round picks, and they got a 4th round pick back. And did they get a safety, or did the Seattle? I think Seattle traded a safety, but yeah. So the compensation's high. But Jamal's worth it. Jamal's absolutely worth it. And the way the Jets handled this, I really don't know what it is. My guess would be it's something with Adam Gase's ego, because this is as bona fide as it gets. This isn't a Tyreek Hill with questionable stuff off the field. This isn't, a young player that is still on the rise. This is a guy who's an apex at his position and is the outstanding citizen on the team. So that's it for me, man. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about Jamal Adams being traded. Comment, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.